now we get to find out what's happening with the garden project around Lansing, because we're just headed into tomato season, am I right?
Oh, I hope so. Last year was such a tease with the late blight that hit and not able to have tomatoes, right? I mean,
yes.
Had probably 3 ripe tomatoes and then everything died.
See, I had them.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my
in your
hoop
hoop house. Yeah. Because the airborne disease, it didn't strike the hoop houses quite the same. So
it didn't, did it?
Yeah, it hit everything out in the open fields. Most organic production was completely wiped out.
That was so sad.
Yeah, very sad.
So what are we looking at this year? How's it going?
It's been wet and
it's been weird.
Cool, which is similar to last year. So we're seeing some early blight kind of strike around. Maybe a precursor to kind of the similar conditions for the late blight. It's hard to say. We're just fingers crossed, hoping for the best and get at least some crop out of them first.
My potatoes don't look good. They're turning yellow. The leaves are early, despite the fact that I haven't seen that much flowering. So that's not a good sign, is it?
Might be a little bit of blight. Could be because we've had a good Colorado potato beetle presence, and they spread some disease too. So.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know they spread diseases. I did a movie on getting rid of the Colorado potato beetle, and I actually went to the Prelinger archive and included a bomb blast from one of the atom bomb tests, because I think that's about what it takes to get rid of them. It can be exciting with those Colorado potato beetles.
hand pick them into a jug of soap. That's the best way I
That's
found out.
exactly
which is
what
not
I
exactly your best time efficient way to do it. But
no, but boy, and you have to go out. I was going out 4 and 5 times a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the only way to stay ahead of them. So how many projects do you have around the city now? Because each year it seems like it gets larger and larger.
Yeah, we add about 10 or 12 the last few years through our Garden Leaders Training, which is a series of workshops we do in the winter, kind of February, early March. And the idea is that rather than the garden project and the food banks sitting down and saying, we're going to start a garden here, we're going to start a garden there, we teach the skills on how to start a garden to individuals so that they can do it, right? So it's sort of taking that community development model that we were already doing a little bit further. So we empower the community to pop up the gardens where they want. Very emergent kind of philosophy. So we've seen about 10 or 12 new gardens each year. We had 55, 60 people come through Garden Leaders Training this past year, and it's been like that for the last 5. It's really incredible.
Wow.
That's not slowing down at all then.
No.
It seems to be accelerating.
No, exactly. Which is a bit of a different trend from what people thought, why everyone's getting into gardening because the economy is not doing well,
right.
et cetera, et cetera. And things, albeit, not the best, have started to turn around. Jobs are coming back. Maybe it's not full employment, underemployment and such, but it's still a better economy. And the garden movement is still picking up speed, which is hopeful for the locavores in the area,
It actually takes some money up front to garden. I mean, you have to buy the seed, you have to bore the pot, the plants if you're doing transplants and so forth. So it can be more difficult for people who are kind of strapped to get into gardening.
Which is where we come in, right? So
right.
The garden project, we're able to provide seed packets and plant starts and tools through a tool lending library, books through a book lending library. We have classes and workshops and experts that we tap to kind of come in and do a little series. So we're actually at about nearly 20,000 plant starts and 10,000 seed packets this year.
Oh, that's a lot. Now, what size gardens are typical?
Yeah, the garden could be as big as the room we sit in, which is 15 by 10 or so, I don't know. It could be about this big at a school, and it could be part of their after-school curriculum, or it could be the 3 acres that we lease from the Capital Region Airport Authority, and we have 160 plots up there, and 80 families growing up that space. And the gardens range. We have about 120 to 130 in our network. We're doing kind of an assessment and measuring again this year to kind of figure out who kept up from last year and who started new and really got going this year. So yeah, ranges in size. We're about 27 acres of garden space overall, though, in our network right now. So
wow.
It's quite the space.
Does all of it have water, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag depending on the garden. So some are collecting water off of a nearby building and collecting rainwater. Others, we've been able to work great with BWL and put in a spigot at a few sites so that we can fill big tanks and have people hand water there. Others have water access right there. It's kind of a mix. We've gotten away from having people to bring water from home, which is really
with
good.
jugs. Yes, a lot of people had to do that.
Jugs on the bus. We've had that kind of in our history, jugs of water on the bus, and so we try and make it a little bit easier for people to garden. But
that does make it tough.
It does. You have to be dedicated.
Do individual gardeners, say, grow all tomatoes, all peppers, or anything like that? Or is there that kind of quirkiness where people are growing, say, to make a salsa only?
Rutabaga.
Oh, right.
Yeah, no, and that, by the way, that's the title of one of Carl Sandburg's children's books. Rutabaga.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll have to look that one up. Yeah, it gets even more quirky than that, surprisingly.
Oh, good.
So, we have a lot of Hmong gardeners at some of our plots.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly at Airport Community Garden, and we have some Hmong gardeners who sign up for 2 or 3 plots, and they're very specific about wanting a plot on the hill. They're very specific about a plot down the way a little bit because the soil type's different. So it's better for different crops that they want to grow. They grow all of one crop in one spot and all of another crop in another spot. Some really fascinating to see that the lemongrass grows well here and the onions grow well over there.
I had lemongrass for the first time. It grows in Michigan.
It makes a great tea, doesn't it?
It's wonderful.
Is that how you had it? It was
No,
tea?
I had it on a sandwich.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was delicious. I didn't know that grew in Michigan.
They sort of cheat the system. I think they get it already started, the small plant, and then start up the roots and just sort of grow it out. Like ginger, we can actually grow ginger here as well too.
I didn't know that.
Usually can't get a second year out of it. We can do a single year of ginger in a hoop house. So you get the fresh ginger. It's a little spicier, not as thick a skin. Pretty fun.
Ooh, that would be neat.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
very
like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the rainwater because that's an issue that I've thought about. I thought about trying to capture rain. I mean, I put up the hoop house and then realized, of course, that it doesn't rain in the hoop house. All the water that goes in there is somehow going to be eaten. I have to get it in there. So I have 200 feet of hose that goes out there, that's a long way.
Long hose.
No wonder my well went out this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Needed a new pump. But if you capture rainwater off something like a roof, do you have to be concerned about whether it's like an asphalt roof and you're getting stuff you don't want in your food as a result?
Yeah, I haven't read much on that to say that it's an issue. I also have to think that after a few years of the sun baking it and enough water running over it, that the leaching that would have happened is going to be fairly minimal at that point. I do know when we look at putting in gardens on ground that had formerly asphalt on top, that they look at asphalt as inert and not as a toxic issue.
Really?
Yeah, so we worked with some folks at MSU to understand that, great, the garden had asphalt at one point, stripped away, you're good to go. Just, mix it in.
Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because I had heard that in Detroit, when they would reclaim places, that as long as you put in 16 to 18 inches of topsoil on top, you basically could have sludge type stuff underneath and it wouldn't matter much.
A lot of the issues with lead and other things, within tolerable reasons, is mostly because of the dirt on the plant itself. So it's either splashing up on the leaves if it's lettuce, or it's in the little root hairs on carrots and that kind of thing. So that's where your most of your contaminants come
And your
in.
root crops aren't going to go down that far.
Right, exactly. Yep.
What kinds of fertilizers do you allow on your
Yeah,
plots?
we really encourage organic production.
Okay.
We don't stick to that, but most of our gardens over the last 5 to 8 years have shifted completely away from getting the Miracle Grow or the 30-30-30 and dumping it on the gardens. It's just not something we do. And we're real active about working with our gardens to take soil samples and put in cover crops and help either the gardeners that are a little more independent or the gardens that we have a little more control over to amend the soil so that they're productive. We've been, soil is the basis of all the great food that we're growing, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right.
Do you allow animal manure, rotted horse manure, lamb manure, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah.
You do?
Oh, the more the better. We want it to be aged, and we want to get it in at an appropriate time.
Okay.
Not putting it on fresh crops, but we'll put that in the fall, mix it in. We get a lot of leaf litter compost is most of what we use to amend the soil at this point, either from the local municipalities, Grand Ledge and Mason. City of Lansing stopped their lawn and leaf composting program. They now dump all to. They pay a tipping fee and it dumps all to Hammond Farms. So they're kind of handling that operation at this point.
So they're doing the composting?
They're doing all the composting. So all the lawn and leaf litter used to sort of be managed by the city. It's an expensive business. It's the equipment's $500,000.
Labor, yeah.
Really expensive equipment, lots of labor. So That's a business that Hammond's been able to do. And they work with us and then donate 200 yards of compost each year to us. So it's been really fantastic.
I got some compost from Hammond this year, and I must admit it's the best looking I've ever seen. I do my own, but it gets nowhere near
Is
the
it
quality.
fried enough so there's no seeds or?
Yes, that's what I was really impressed by too, that they'd taken the temperature up apparently high enough.
Yeah, the quality is really fantastic.
It is.
We feel real lucky to have Hammond Farms donate the 200 yards to the garden project every year the last couple of years, and great relationship.
And I think what you should do, of course, is do what I do, which was dazzle all the family that was in for a visit as we were eating dinner in the living room, and I did point out the worm bins in the corner.
Truly, you are the only person I know has indoor worm bins in your living room, but hey.
Do you know about Compost Katie?
No.
The worm production, I guess compost production on the east side here. Compost Katie is a sort of door-to-door pick up your veggie scraps and composting it with worm production. The same gentleman that started the Go Green Cab.
Yeah.
The Green Cab, I think the Green Cab company in the area sold that and is
Well,
now
his-
running this business.
Is that right? Because he was married to Ann Scott, who did the Farm to Fork
Yep,
over there.
still
for the-
married.
Oh.
Yeah, great. So we.
I didn't mean to imply they were.
Yeah, Woody Campbell, I think.
Yeah.
So they go door to door and pick up
Like
table
a,
scraps.
like
I
a
mean-
subscription service, sort of, right? So you pay
Yeah.
a monthly subscription, picks up the table scraps, and turns that back into compost. You
That
get
is
some of the compost if
wonderful.
you want, and whatever you don't take, that you'll be donating to the garden project again. So we have some really great compost, hopefully coming in the next year from him.
What a clever idea. I mean, I took 2 large loads to our compost pile today, but
Yeah.
I'm not real good at creating compost. I create
Either
piles.
way. No.
Right. And
It's
that's
not easy.
Basically, I feed the deer in the winter.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So there's always a lot of
The animals
critters.
seem to get to it before it's composted.
You've had a lot of fun with the raccoons. Yes.
Every animal. I think we may have bear for all I know. I live in the city. It's just amazing the critters that are around here.
Yeah.
This is LCC
That's-
Radio WLNZ 89.7 here in Lansing, Michigan. We're talking with Alex Bryan of the Garden Project, which is an initiative of the Food Bank of Greater Lansing, and we're talking about this idea of composting and worm bins and all of these ways to get rid of scraps. I remember one of the things I was fascinated about, there was a business in California where they would come in and put in an edible garden so that you would see all these beautiful, they would use flowers and plants and vegetable plants together and create this gorgeous garden for you. It was all organic. The business model was that they picked up your scraps, right? Exactly like that, so you got your own compost back. But you typically had enough that they could share that with other places as well. And they also had a model where most home gardens produced more than the families could eat. So they would also sell part of it at the farmer's market and take that off your bill. So it was there are some really unique entrepreneurial opportunities in this, aren't there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, food permeates all of our lives, right? We sort of have to eat to live.
And people like fresh food. It tastes different.
Right,
It
exactly.
does taste different, doesn't it?
Yeah, so-
It's stunning. I went out, just the other day, the first green beans out of the garden, they were just tender. Unbelievable. You stand there and eat them. You find yourself eating lunch right in the garden.
As long as you can stay out there for the mosquitoes to suck a few pints of blood off of you. But
Yeah.
I've got a question, Alex, and I've kind of tried to get a handle on this before. Where is Lansing stand in efforts like this nationally? To my impression is we're at least at the forefront.
I think so.
yeah, we're really blowing everyone else out of the water. It's kind of
Okay, I'm glad I was thinking, am I that naive?
Yeah.
Because wherever I go, you look around and ask, and people aren't doing this.
No.
Like
No.
the garden at Lansing.
No.
and not for as long as we have.
No.
Yes.
The garden project's been around for over 30 years now, which puts us as one of the older community garden programs in general, and then to have the sort of focus at a lower income, sort of more food justice oriented model,
Yes.
it's extremely unique even today. So our network is robust. It's sort of mature. I work with a lot of colleagues around the country that come to us for advice at times, or I can see them start to trend from taking a very ownership model of gardens to, wow, we can't do this, we can't keep up with this. How do we train people to start their own gardens? Hey, we've been doing that for 10 years. Let's talk. So I feel privileged and lucky to sort of steward the ship right now and be able to push things forward.
Do you collaborate much with the MSU Student Organic Farm? Because it seems to me that with Dr. John Birnbaum out there, he's really been a leading light in a lot of the research on hoop houses. He has that huge composting operation going out there behind the Student Organic Farm, composting the food waste from the various dormitories. I mean, he's doing some remarkable work out there, it seems. Must be nice to have that sort of collaboration, I would assume.
Absolutely. You know, we've borrowed equipment back and forth with each other. We've had folks interns coming out of the programs out of MSU, working with staff to do trial cover crops out on the farm spaces that we have. So we've been a really great relationship with Student Organic Farm. They're actually still a co-director on one of the grants we brought in recently. So
do entrepreneurs come out of this gardening program?
Yeah,
where they create their own business model.
Yeah, and that's sort of our Lansing Roots program that we have, which is more farm business development, entrepreneurial aspects, and so we look at we can give a man a fish, we can teach a man to fish, or we can help create a fish business, and I think really all of those are very necessary and sort of creating a robust food system that we want to see. And as the food bank, that we want to sort of make sure that in the future we have farms in our region that can provide the food that we need.
One of the challenges, in fact, in my advanced writing class, the theme for what they're doing right now is community and food, so they're looking at some of these issues. One young woman had done some work in school where a lot of the changes in the school lunch program had come in, and what she had was, they said initially there's some resistance on the part of some kids who have been raised in a sort of chip, Twinkie, and soda pop diet, and it's hard to change your palate. And one of the challenges is this sort of cultural piece of trying to introduce people to new foods. I saw the look of joy when I mentioned turnips to Bill once, because he grew up on them and hates them. Will never eat a turnip again if his life depends on it. But I mean, introducing kids to new foods is a challenge. How do we do that?
Yeah, I don't know how we do that. I do know it's necessary, and sort of scientifically, it's actually necessary because of tasting something. Usually the first few times your body might reject it, might think it doesn't taste good. It's sort of not used to the nutrients that it might provide, right? So I go for a run right now and I get back and I crave a salad. Most people think the long run they're not going to crave a salad. They want something, pizza or a burger or whatever it is, but I've sort of eaten enough salad that my body recognizes that I need certain nutrients and minerals, and so that's what I have the craving for. And it can be the same with youth, so it's just a matter of repetition. So it's forcing the kid to eat the broccoli. Maybe not the best method is the sort of the stick method, but it seems somewhat necessary to sort of
put
have
it in
that repetition.
A smoothie.
Right.
Put it in a strawberry smoothie.
Introduce it somehow. Yeah. And so Northwest Initiative is an organization in town. They do a great job with some of their after-school culinary programs that they have, and really great program through the food systems project that they're running. We partner with them quite a bit.
I forget her name, but she was the food writer for the New York Times on these issues for many years, and she said at one point that it takes about 2 years to completely change your palate, and that when people are under stress, they'll revert back to the comfort food of their youth, which in my case is fried bologna with yellow mustard, grilled onions on Wonder Bread. Now, it would kill me if I ate that today. Absolutely. I think I'd probably have heart fibrillations and fall over, but I wanted everyone
The onions sound pretty good.
I can't think of anything worse. I mean, the plants in the hydroponic system. Are we seeing an interest in hydroponics for the winter?
Yeah, I think we are, and I think as the science gets better, I think we'll see that continue to grow as an industry and as a sort of way to produce food. I think it's still a little new. Sort of to most folks, it's not tried out. There's not a lot of sort of academic research behind it, which not to say that has to be the forefront, but it helps. It helps if a university's coming out with local extension bulletins are coming out with some different methods that are tried and sort of trialed in a more rigorous setup.
I've seen some experiments in abandoned warehouses and tunnels in New York City where they're using artificial light, and there's sort of a steady, you get 6 feet below ground and you get a steady 55 degrees. So if you can add light and you have a source for water, you may have a hydroponic system that you could do there.
Yeah, so in addition to all the hats I wear, I own a farm in Detroit, and we're doing some of this aquaponics production right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, trying, experimenting to see that, all right, is it worth it? How is it worth it? Because it seems like it could be on paper, and we're trying to figure out whether it could be or not. And if it is, share the knowledge. We want to see more people.
Are you using plastic pipe?
Plastic pipe. So we're doing
Plastic tubing kind of
Yeah,
thing?
we're doing an in-ground tank, so we're doing the fish production with the
Oh,
hydroponics.
okay.
So and we pump everything up into puffed shale rock beds above. So it's so we use like kind of a puffed shale medium and just the water to filter through.
Wow.
So not necessarily the plastic pipes or the chemicals, but using the fish waste and then just the
Mostly
the
greens?
plants. Mostly greens. We do peppers. We've done ginger.
You've done ginger?
In the red. They do pretty well. The ginger does well. Watercress obviously does really well.
Huh.
Water living plants like that. Strawberries surprisingly did well. They didn't last through the winter. They sort of froze out because they weren't kind of in the soil. But the strawberries did quite well. Fish are still getting there. We're trying to dial that system a bit more. But
Are you using tilapia or are you using...
we're doing catfish and bluegill. They're native, so it's
Oh,
something that we
cool.
kind of be more important to us. And the tilapia, you really need to heat in the winter.
I
Whereas
see.
the bluegill catfish, you don't have to. It helps with their growth, but it's not necessary. So
Now, is Detroit going through this food renaissance, do you think, at the level that we sometimes read about?
sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes.
There's a lot of media hype. We're about 4 acres, the farm, and I'd say we're on the larger end of the for-profit farms in Detroit, probably the largest. And it's happening. It's slow. It won't feed everyone yet. It has the potential. I mean, there really is the land there to do it. But it's baby steps, and we'll get there. It took 50 years to kind of get to where Detroit is today from the sort of peak population, and it might take 50 years to turn that around, and we just have to be patient and really see that through.
Is there community gardens there like there are in Lansing?
Yeah, a lot.
Are they? Good.
Yeah, they've documented about 1,200 community gardens sort of in that general area through organizations like Keep Growing Detroit or the Greening of Detroit. Not entirely sure how accurate that is. Maybe it's plus or minus 100, but that's still over 1,000, which is really incredible.
I went down and did a video on the earthwork farm down there, and that was connected to the Capuchin Food Kitchen. So that's kind of an interesting relationship where you can also grow fresh, healthy food for the soup kitchen arrangement there at the...
Yeah, and some of the gardens in our network here locally are doing similar stuff too, right? So we've helped people grow at the church, for the church to going out to the parishioners or the people that are coming in to receive food. It's not quite the same extent that Earthworks is running things, so they're doing some more job training and stuff, but it's pretty interesting.
How do we get food that is grown in the summer, sort of the summer abundance, shared with people who may have a difficult time accessing it?
Yeah, we try and get out as much as we can when we can. And we also do quite a bit with education around canning and preserving, so self-preservation of stuff. And then I'd say it's part of a lacking area in Michigan is the processing plants that used to be around to be able
Right.
to smaller mid-scale processing so that we could maybe partner with a farmer who has excess to preserve that throughout the winter. And we were more reliant on the sort of regional supply chains or sort of even global supply chains of produce for the winter.
I'm becoming a big fan of drying as a
Yeah.
preserving method.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I somehow, I don't like the idea of that freezer whirring all winter, burning of energy. I keep thinking that maybe I'm sort of self-defeating that way.
Yeah.
So I'd rather dry my tomatoes and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's all sorts of great things. Plus, I learned how to make sauerkraut this year, and I'm getting into fermenting. That's a whole
I'm
other...
teaching a fermenting workshop here
Are you?
at the Allen Neighborhood Center. They're part of their kitchen doing sometime in August 20th, I believe.
Oh, cool. What are you
Yeah.
going to ferment?
We'll probably just do basic sauerkraut for now. I do a lot of kimchi and
Yeah.
other things at home, but we'll do kind of basic sauerkraut entry level and go from there.
I'm frightened of kefir. I think that may be beyond me.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
You can end up with a little E. coli if you're not careful. There could be exciting, so yes.
Yeah.
They keep saying that it's safe to scrape off the mold on top of the sauerkraut, but I don't believe them, so I'm
yeah.
very careful about that sort of thing, yeah.
Just scrape it off, go to the next level. Keep as long as it's not discolored, I'm fine with it. Right?
That's the way my grandmother believed.
Adventure in eating, yeah.
She lived into her 80s, so I guess that'll work. So, wow, there's so much going on. So where is the easiest place for people to get information about what?
Well, GreaterLansingFoodBank.org
Okay.
is really got everything as far as the garden project goes. Let'sGardenLansing.org for online calendar events. And this Wednesday, we happen to have a garden tour.
Oh, really?
Yep, so this Wednesday, 5:30 to 8, community garden tour will be at the 2401 Market Street, which is our resource center for the walk and bus tour. And the bike tour will be leaving from Riddle Elementary School, next to Let's Community Garden, Let's Garden right there.
2401 Market Street?
2401 Market Street for the bus and the walk.
What's
And
the landmark close to that?
That's Foster Park.
Foster Park.
Foster
So
Park
if you
on
show up
Lansing
there
System.
at 2401 Market Street,
Yeah.
Foster Park, that is very
Yeah,
cool.
5:30 to 8. Tour leaves at 6. So
So, sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much to Alex Bryan from the Garden Project, and we will be back next Monday night. This is LCC Radio WLNZ 89.7 here in Lansing, Michigan, and you've been listening to the Lansing Online News Radio Show with Bonnie Bucqueroux and Bill Castanier. And as soon as I get busy, we'll have the YouTube from tonight up on the YouTube channel as well. So thank you very much for tuning in. Come back again next Monday night. Thank you very much.